Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and before you marry a person, you should first make them use a computer with a slow internet connection to see who they really are. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam this morning called Testament: The Order of High Human. Developed and published by Fairy Ship Games, this game was released not in early access and is selling for $35 American. Now this game is a first-person action-style fantasy game where this is suggested to be similar to Metroidvania games. I'm not really seeing it, but okay. So, basically, in this game, you play as the king of the high humans called Aaron or Iran. I don't know how to say it. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, you've been discarded, I think, or maybe dethroned by your brother who embraced darkness, and now you're struggling to find your way back, regain your lost powers, and bring light to the darkness. You know, your kind of typical generic storyline, but whatever. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, am I right? It's a first-person action game like Skyrim, but without the role-playing slice-of-life functions or deep immersion or choices, basically. So, as always, let's take a look at the good and the bad and find out if this game is worth our time and money, shall we? So up first for the positives is the look and the graphics, basically, the look and feel. There's some good lighting here, some good attention to detail with depth and an intuitive design. It's not the best graphics ever, but, you know, it's still not bad. Just for a second opinion, for instance, I asked my wife, and she thought it looked really good. But, you know, it's the lighting, the rendering, and the shadows that really sell it for me. It's a dark, dreary adventure, and the graphics and artistic design show that here in a strong way. The next positive thing I have to say here is the gameplay. It's fairly simple with levels of complexity to it that allow it to grow more complicated in a good way down the line. For instance, left click for light attack, right click for heavy attack, alt to dodge, control to crouch, shift to sprint. You can also use magic and a bow as you unlock them to vary up your style of play. So, first off, you've got the ease of play as they adhere to the normal button commands we're all used to in first-person games, which makes the controls simpler for us to understand and learn. But then it slowly adds things. You know, hitting the enemy at the right time can parry their attacks. Hitting them multiple times can disrupt their attack. Different weapons are collected with different skills, as I mentioned earlier, which vary up your gameplay. There's also a sneak function with assassination-style attacks in case you wanted to go for a more stealthy approach. Honestly, the gameplay functions very well, and because it's introducing newer functions slowly throughout its gameplay, it allows you to learn them, and as time goes by, you'll be able to perform these complex fighting mechanics due to being introduced to them in a timely manner. So, you know, something complicated to a beginner would seem simple to a veteran. Understand? Basically, the gameplay is really good here. You have a health and a mana bar. You have a skill tree where you earn a perk point every level that you can then put into whatever. You have inventory, but not for weapons or armor, just for quest items and healing items. You can unlock weapons and armor and whatnot as you progress, like a better sword or a better bow. You have different spells and things like that you can unlock in the skill tree, or other abilities, just depending on how you want to play the game. Even the combat is pretty interesting and reactive. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's still not bad, and plus, I'm only a couple hours in, so I'm sure it's going to get a lot more crazy and ridiculous the more I play, but, you know, again, in a good way. And then I started to get spells, and while they add an interesting mechanic to the game, well, you know what, I'm just going to go into that later. The next positive thing I have here is the creativity and the originality. Now, yes, I understand that the game's main premise is kind of cliche. You know, brother betrays the king, blah, blah, blah. King is betrayed and loses his power, blah, blah, blah. He's got to regain it so he can bring light to the darkness, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've all heard this stuff before 1,000 times. But there's more here that brings its creativity to light, such as the humans being called high humans and not just humans or mortals. There's a new element to magic here, seen differently. There's newer types of creatures here and a whole new world with all new lore and unique creations. A world created solely for the purpose of this game. I mean, to be honest, I wish this game was more of a deep RPG than a heavy action game, so I could really just lose myself in its world. But even so, it's interesting and different, and definitely in a darker fashion, which only adds to its individuality. The last positive I have here is the stability. While the game started with a horrid resolution that wasn't accurately showing where my mouse was, and I had to navigate it in an awkward fashion to fix it, but I mean, besides that, everything was working great. I mean, there were no glitches, crashes, there was no freezing or frame rate dropping, or just anything. As a fully released game, this is to be expected, but you know how it is with games nowadays. You never know. So, yeah, its stability worked just fine for me on its ultimate graphics, by the way. Oh, and I almost forgot. The game has puzzles and riddles with these different levels that engage with them. Overall, when it comes to these levels, they're just so well designed and fun to traverse through that I actually lost myself in them with their majesty and creativity, and I was really just like getting into these puzzle levels. They were very interesting and very well done. Okay, so that's all I got for the positives. Up next is the negatives. But first, before that, did you know about this crazy paradox on YouTube? I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. The only way to get views for your YouTube videos is to first get views. Stupid, right? Yeah, I know. Basically, the only way people see my videos is if they've already been seen. So if you think my channel is any good, and if you think I'm any good, and if it's worth anything, then, you know, share my videos so that they'll get seen by more people, so they'll be advertised more. It's the only way for my channel to grow, really. And, you know, a like and a subscription would help as well. And comments, too. You know, just consider supporting my channel. It would be really appreciated. Also, there's this new segment on my channel, Same Day Reviews. It's exactly as it sounds. You request a review on a video game, and I'll get it posted that same day. Unless I already put out a video. Don't think I can? Then try me. Alright, now on to the negatives. So the first most glaring negative is the sound effects and whatnot. So the voice acting is both good and bad. Don't want to talk about it much here because it's not much of a negative, but still I wanted to point it out. I mean, some voice acting is done great and others not so great. I mean, listening to this guy scream for his life as he falls off a cliff is just embarrassing. However, listening to this guy speak is just enthralling.
What a mess. What have you done to yourself, young man? This is a very dangerous place for a lonely man like you.
See what I mean? So it's got its pretty good and it's got its pretty bad moments. As for the music, it's okay, I guess. I mean, it's pretty average. It's background music that changes depending on the situation you're in. It's not bad, but it's not something to write home about. But the biggest thing I really wanted to point out is the sound effects of the gameplay. It's awful. I mean, okay, it's not exactly awful, but it's pretty bad. The creature noises are pretty bad. The combat sounds are pretty bad. And the worst blunder for me personally is the sound of magic. It's so embarrassing. Why not make magic sound much bigger and grander? It's just depressing.
Let's test my new powers. Good shot.
I guess just part of the problem here is that in a lot of situations and in a lot of different ways, there's just missing sounds. There's the sound of the clash of a sword against a sword not really there, or the sound striking an enemy not really there, the magic striking an enemy or the ground or the wall not really there. So not only is it missing certain key components that would make the sound effects better, but they just don't sound right most of the time either. The next negative is the story. It's blah. I mean, everyone in this game is acting like it's a sequel, which if it is, I don't know about it. But they act like you should already know this world, know its people, know some of its lore, but I don't. So would you mind explaining it, please? I mean, this is my first entry into this world, and a little background or introduction would be highly appreciated. I mean, it's all well and good, but I have no idea what the Seekers are. I have no idea what high humans are. Are they just humans? Why am I the king? What happened to me? Why am I here? Who is my brother? What's he doing? What's his deal? What happened? I mean, it's just a lot of vagues that could have been summed up and brought together in a brief, short story opening cutscene that could have provided just a simple basis for the rest of the information that we begin to gather. And all it does overall is make me feel unwelcome and confused. And finally, the last negative, and my personal most irritated negative, the magic. It's depressing. I mean, it's kind of like Call of Duty mechanics mixed with Skyrim RPG, but you can't dual cast. I checked around the skill tree and didn't see any that gives you the ability to cast 2 spells at once. They're slow to cast when they should be fast, considering this is a hack and slash style of game. You have up to 4 magic abilities unlocked at once, but I don't really know how that works. Regardless, it's 1 spell at a time, and they're very lackluster. They're not big, they're not explosive, they don't even feel magical. But I thought that was kind of the point of this game, to be a spell-slinging badass. But instead, I'm just sneaking around killing people with a sword most of the time, which is just kind of boring. I mean, if I wanted to do that, I really would just go play Skyrim. I mean, I know I probably need to progress further and unlock more mana and spells and stuff, but still, I was hoping when I finally got magic that it would be this big thing, but it's just kind of dull and mundane, but maybe that's just me. So that's all I got for the good and the bad. I've got a couple extras that I didn't know where to put them, so here they are. The tutorial is kind of meh. It's good and bad. Sometimes it teaches you exactly what you need to know when you need to know it, but sometimes it doesn't. And the user interface, well, it kind of looks good and it kind of looks bad. Again, as I said, I'm not quite sure where to put them, so here they are. I suppose the UI isn't the worst I've seen, but it just feels kind of lackluster, like they're trying to dress it up to be cooler than it really is. As for the tutorial, I mean, at least it's there. Kinda. But okay, that's everything. So what do I think overall? Well, I think overall it's a hack and slash game with elements of stealth and magic. That's pretty much it. I mean, if that's your kind of thing, then you're going to like it. But, you know, it also has puzzles and riddles to solve, which is fun and very well designed. It's got deep lore, even if its storytelling is a bit long-winded, with you expecting to have read all the lore before playing to understand what's going on. I think it's a pretty decent game. Just don't go into it for its story. Don't approach this like it's an RPG. Think of it as like a challenge game, something you play to compete against a friend or something. Play it just for its hack and slash mechanics and you'll find yourself having a good time. This isn't really my type of game, but I can see that it's got as much good as it does bad. I think it's pretty average, honestly. Is it worth your time and money? Time? Well, that's up to you. If you like these kinds of games, then sure. Your money, I don't know. I think it's got a lot of production value with days of gameplay time, so yeah, I guess technically it's worth its asking price. But to me, it's just average, and since I prefer deeper RPGs, I'd rather just go back to Skyrim than play this one, but to each their own, right? So if what you saw here looks fun and interesting to you, then go ahead and check it out. If not, then you're not missing much. Alright, everybody? So that's all the time I got for this episode. Thanks so much for stopping by to check it out. Don't forget to support me by liking and subscribing and sharing the video. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.